All right, we are live. It was spinning there for a minute. So, anyhow, hi guys, I'm Amy Miller coming on live today to talk about interview questions and what not to ask as far as interview questions go. And then, of course, we'll also talk about what to ask and how to figure out the right questions for you. Of course, that's going to be different for each individual depending on you and what is important to you in your next opportunity, and also depending on where you are in the interview process and then where you are in your career journey. And I bring this topic up again because this is a consistent challenge that I tend to see folks having, either coaching clients and or candidates that I'm working with throughout the interview process. And this is so important because the questions that you ask during an interview show a lot about you. They say a lot about you. They really clue the hiring manager into a lot of details about you. So for example, awareness. If you are not asking questions that are questions you really want to know the answers to, then you're not demonstrating self-awareness, meaning what is important to you? Do you know what is meaningful to you? Because in order to prioritize what is meaningful to you, you have to know what that is. So when you're looking at opportunities, you want to know some key things that are important to you. And then you want to formulate your questions around these key priorities and or drivers. So we're going to get deeper into that. And your questions also demonstrate social awareness. Are you asking questions that are pertinent to where you are in the interview process and to with whom you're speaking? Because likely you're going to be interviewing with a handful of different folks throughout the interview. So you want interview process and you want to be asking questions that are going to be appropriate for that individual. So did you research their background? Do you understand questions that are, and are you asking questions that are appropriate to them? Otherwise, you're not making good use of their time or your time. And so this is demonstrating a lack in social awareness. And then what else do they say? I guess we'll go ahead and dive in, probably get more into what your questions say about you as we go. But let's talk about what not to ask. Okay, so number one, you don't want to ask questions during the interview that are not questions you really want to know the answers to. And I see this so often. Candidates and or clients brainstorming their questions, preparing for the interview. And these questions are not questions they really want to know the answers to. And I can tell because they typically will not be very specific, just kind of general questions, or sometimes they sound canned, like you put a quarter in a gumball machine and out popped your interview questions. So you want to be asking questions that you really want to know the answers to. Okay. So don't ask questions that you don't really want to know the answers to. Don't ask questions that are not pertaining to where you are in the interview process. So you want your interview questions that you're asking are to help you discern if you would like to move forward to that next step in the process. So let's say, 10 years down the line, you're maybe interested in management. You don't want to be asking about opportunities for leadership or for promotion for where you are in this specific interview process. You want to be asking questions that let you know if you're interested in this particular role. That's maybe an exaggeration, but I have gotten that question before and a handful of times. And I'll turn that back around on the candidate and say, I'm curious why you ask. Is that question helping you decide whether or not you're interested in this particular opportunity? Because I don't have a leadership opportunity right now. This is the opportunity that I have. Are you interested in this particular role? So you want to be asking questions for where you are in the process and to help you learn if you want to move forward to that next step. And you also don't ask questions that are not helping you learn if you're interested in the opportunity as a whole. So questions that are going to make or break your interest in that opportunity. So for example, the 401k match, is the answer to that question going to make or break whether or not you want the opportunity? And if not, then don't ask the question. All right. And good questions demonstrate, in addition to self-awareness and social awareness, an ability to prioritize, they also demonstrate confidence, meaning that you know and understand that you have value to bring and that your questions are important. Okay, so you want to refrain from asking questions that you don't want to know the answers to and from asking questions that don't make sense for where you are in the process. Like another kind of exaggerated but simple example would be in an initial interview, you don't want to ask closing questions like to have the job. You do want to ask closing questions to move forward to that next step in the process, but not what is the next step in the process when you haven't gotten there yet. So you want to ask questions that are appropriate for where you are. Let's see. I want to share a couple of examples that I have gotten recently. So I'm working with a client, and he is well established in his career, and he's going through the interview process actively right now. And he was coming up on the last interview. And so with where this, again, your questions are going to be different for each individual where you are in your career. And so this individual knows a lot about the company, even the leadership and the role and the space. So at this point, he doesn't have a lot of questions about the company culture, what is needed to succeed, these kinds of things. And when we were working together and he was sharing his questions with me and helping him prepare for the last interview, one of his questions, so it was for a higher level, not his direct manager, but a VP. And so they were the final interview. And one of his questions was about how the VP got into leadership and maybe some things that they had to learn and adjust along the way to get where they are as they've grown in their career with this company. And I said, why do you want to know the answer to that question? He said, I'm just curious. And I said, but why are you curious? Are you wanting leadership? And I already knew he does not want leadership. We've talked about this. Are you wanting their role? Are you wanting to ultimately move up and into leadership? And he said, no. So then the answer to this question doesn't matter. And a good interviewer is going to know that you are just asking questions, just to ask questions, just to check a box, to make it look like you did your homework and like you prepared. But if it's not something you really want to know the answer to, you're not utilizing your time well or their time well. And so I convinced him to get rid of that question, but it took some convincing because he kept pushing, well, I want to be conversational. I want to learn about them. But why? Are you going to even be working with them day to day? No, you're not. So what is it you really, truly want to know? If you don't have you should have questions throughout each step in the interview process. There should never really be a point that you get to where you don't have questions, because this shows lack of interest. You're not in the role yet. But if you in a position where you're pretty tenured in your career and in the space, and you've got contacts and experience and you know the deal, you don't have a lot of questions. You already know what you need to know in order to know that you want that job. Well, then your questions can be more around closing type of questions, even before you get to the actual close, which is going to come, of course, at the end of that specific interview. But really what this candidate wanted to know is, I understand that maybe he could say something like, I really don't have a lot of questions about the company, about the space, and about the role. You see my experience, you know where I've been, and I know enough about the opportunity to know that I want this opportunity. And I understand that it's down between myself and one candidate. What I want to know is what you want and what you're looking for, and what we've talked about it in my background. Do you feel like I would be a good potential fit? And or is there anything missing in my background and me as a candidate that we could talk about? Because this is really what the candidate wants to know. So be confident in yourself and in your questions, and make sure that you're asking what it is you really want to know. So this is an example of for somebody that is tenured in their career. But let's take an up-and-comer type of candidate that's maybe a little bit more open. I always like to come back to identifying your drivers. And this is going to make sense whether you are advanced in your career, mid-level, or up and coming in your career. You want to get curious about your drivers, what drives you, what is important to you. And that's what you want to prioritize. And then that is what you want to formulate your questions around. So let's say you're up and coming in your career, and you know that you like being out and about. You don't like sitting behind a desk, and you want to make X amount of money. And you want to make sure that you get some good coaching, and you like to feel, I guess that's enough for right now. So then you're gonna formulate your questions around what's important to you. Something like, as you can see from my resume, I'm just getting started in my career. I have my background and education is in X. What I really like and I'm good at is in X, and what I need some help in is in X, for example. I would love to learn a little bit more about your leadership style and the coaching that I might get, what that looks like, our interaction in a day to day in the role, so I can kind of picture myself in the role and see if I feel like I'm going to get what I'm looking for to help me grow in my career. That was a lot of words. Again, when you're brainstorming your questions, you're going to I encourage you to write them down and then actually ask them out loud to make sure that it sounds like you and to trim out any unnecessary words. But I'm just kind of going off the cuff here, helping you to think about how to prioritize, how to figure out what's important to you and then formulate your questions around that. So I'll give another example. Let's say I'm a career coach and I'm a recruiter. I have 9 years experience in recruiting. And let's say I am interviewing for an in-house leadership position over an internal recruiting team. So what I would want to know, I know my drivers. This is an exercise that I have my clients do. I talk about it in other videos. So hopefully you'll catch on and try it yourself, because I think identifying your drivers can also keep you happy. I know in everyday life, because once you identify what drives you, you can prioritize what is meaningful to you, and then you can give yourself that. So if you know, like I know one of my drivers is freedom. So when I go work out, when I go run, when I go for a walk, these are things that stimulate that sense of freedom. Okay, so back to if I'm interviewing for an in-house leadership role for leading an in-house recruiting team, internal recruiting team. My drivers are, I want to make sure I'm bringing value by helping others. I like helping others. So I want to make sure I'm bringing value. I want to make sure that I feel free, and money's not a driver, but I put that down so as things that are important to me. So I'm going to be asking, I want to know, of course, what the compensation is and what the opportunity is to earn above and beyond. I'm going to need to know that. And I'm going to want to ask questions about the day in the life. So am I going to be, I'm going to ask questions that help me learn if I'm going to have a sense of freedom in the role. So what does the day-to-day look like? So I might have a question like, okay, so right now I work for myself. I work from home. If I'm coming in-house leading a team, what does that look like as far as the operating hours and the expectations, and go from there. So I can get a sense of day in the life, and am I going to feel free enough to still, feel good in that role. And bringing value. So again, this comes back to self-awareness. And I encourage you during the interview process, this will really help you if you get curious about and brainstorm on what you're good at and areas that you'd like to improve on. So your strengths and your weaknesses. And then I could formulate my question around this and also demonstrate self-awareness. So circling back to bringing value. I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at. So one of the things that I'm not good at is I'm very organized, but my brain kind of scrambles if I am to if I'm tasked with taking a bunch of information and organizing it together. Now, I've gotten a lot better at this because for my talks, I first create, and my business projects and offerings, first I create an outline. First I brainstorm, and then I create an outline, and then from there I create a slide deck. And so at first that was like so daunting to me. So with practice, I've gotten better. But let's say I'm going to be going potentially in-house, and I know that I'm not that great at organizational systems. So I might say that. I might share, I know my strengths and some areas that I'm not that great at. Would it be okay if we talk about that and I can learn a little bit more about how I can bring value and what you're looking for and what the dynamics of the team are like, so I can see how I would fit in? And then one of my questions might be, do you guys already have an organizational system in place as far as your candidate tracking? What do you use and how does that system work? Or is that something that you'd be looking for me to come in and implement? Because I could do it, I'm sure, but I'm not that great at it. And that's an area that I need to work on. Or another question could be, who on the team, is there somebody on the team that's strong in that, where we could leverage our resources? So what I'm good at, the value that I feel like I could bring, I'm really good at identifying problems. Like if there's a gray area, I know how to dig in and get to the root of the issue. I'm also really good at building people up and learning and helping them learn about themselves, what they're good at and what they're not good at. So I also think I could bring a lot of value in leveraging team strengths and weaknesses. Is this something that you feel like you are looking for? And these are genuine questions that I want to know the answers to. I'm not, you can sure, I'm sure that I've had way too much coffee today. I'm like a lot of sleep and a lot of coffee. Good combo, maybe not so good. I don't know. But I'm sure that you can see from my energy that these questions are genuine, that I'm being myself and I'm not in my head worried about what do they want to know? I want to be moved forward to the next step. I don't know if I want to move forward because I need to uncover information to help me know. Like even when I was up and coming in my career and I was waiting tables and I was so frustrated, I really wanted to get my career started, but I didn't know which direction. My degree was in communication studies, which now ironically I'm kind of circling back. I'm about to start pursuing a master's kind of in that arena. And just, I'm really passionate about effective communication. But at the time, I just ended up pursuing that degree. And after college, I was kind of directionless for a long time. So I was going on these interviews, but I was offered opportunities, but I didn't take them. And I was asking the questions, learning what I needed to know to discern if that was the right fit for me. And they weren't a right fit, all of these opportunities for years. So I didn't take them and I just kept waiting tables because I knew, well, I know how much money I can make and I'm comfortable here, comfortable enough. And I feel free. Freedom is important to me. I'm roaming around my section, running it like it's my own little entrepreneurship. And that makes me feel good. I'm not, sitting behind a desk. So in keeping moving forward with what is important to me and in my interview processes, asking questions that are really important to me, I'm being my genuine, authentic self, and I still got some opportunities, but I was discerning they were not, the right ones for me. So you want to get curious about what you really want to know, and you want to be confident that you have value to bring. Trust that the right opportunity is going to come, but you got to do your due diligence to ask questions that you really want to know the answers to and that are appropriate for where you are in the interview process. Let me see what else here. Oh, another question. I was working with a candidate that I'm recruiting on an opportunity, and we were talking about her questions for her upcoming interview. And one of them was, can you share with me 3 qualities that you're looking for in an ideal candidate? And this is why I encourage you to write down your questions and then say them, ask them out loud, and then ask yourself, is this what I sound like? Am I being myself? Because it just sounded like a canned question. You don't talk like that. Can you please share with me 3 qualities that an ideal candidate would have? This is also kind of like interviewing the interviewer. And you don't want to do that because you're not interviewing the interviewer. They're interviewing you, and you want to let them guide the interview and you want to let them keep their role. But what you want to know is, this is what I bring. Is this what you're looking for? Or what are some things that you're looking for in an ideal candidate? That's fine to ask. It is a pretty general question, but it is one that we likely all want to know because that's going to help us know if we have those qualities. But you want to ask it in a way that sounds natural. So if you brainstorm your questions, write them down, ask them out loud, then you can see if they sound natural. And you can also get curious and say, wait a minute, do I actually want to know the answer to this question? And have fun with it. It's fun to ask questions, to learn about opportunities. Remember, approach each interview with curiosity and excitement, rather than, let that be your outcome goal of that interview, to learn more about the opportunity and to share about yourself, not to get moved forward in the process without knowing that that's really what you want. Okay. Let's see. I feel like there was maybe a couple more things. That might be it though. Yeah. So just recapping, the questions that you're asking say a lot about you. They demonstrate if you are aware of yourself, what is important to you. And actually, let me touch on this a little bit deeper. Self-awareness is very important in the interview process because, hiring managers they want to make sure that they make the right hire. It can be a big, costly mistake if they make the wrong hire. And so if they hire a candidate that doesn't know what they want, they haven't figured out what it is they want, so then they can't prioritize what is meaningful to them. So then they don't do their due diligence to ask the right questions to let them know, yes, this is an opportunity I'm confident I want. Well, then let's say they get the opportunity, and then 6 months down the line, they could learn, oh, this isn't what I wanted, right? And I've seen this happen many times, okay? So hopefully a good hiring manager is going to a good hiring manager, not hopefully, a good hiring manager is going to know if a candidate is unclear on what they want, and then they're not going to get that job for that reason, that it could very likely result in turnover. If we don't know, let's say we want this box over here, but we don't ask all of our questions to understand if that's a good box, and then we put ourselves in that box, and then we're uncomfortable, we're going to leave again. So trust that there are an abundance of opportunities out there for you. I know it doesn't always feel like that, but it's the way that if you shift your mindset to believe that there are an abundance of opportunities and that you will attract the right one for you, you will, because it's going to open your mind to be open to maybe other potential opportunities that you may not be open to. It's also going to elevate your confidence and help you ask questions out of genuine curiosity and not out of fear, which is getting to another topic that I always talk about, fear versus intuition. So we'll save that for another time. Thank you for watching. I hope you got some value from the content here. If you have a question, I love questions and comments. I'll be sure to circle back and answer any questions. And you can like and subscribe to the channel, and that way you'll stay updated on my next video. And if you'd like some more maybe hands-on help and support, I invite you to check out my mini course, Attract the Opportunity, Win the Interview. It's on my website, amyleemiller.com. And you're also welcome to book a call on my calendar if you are curious about some one-on-one coaching. All right. Thanks so much. We will see you on the next one, and have a great day.